Hey, what is going on, guys? I'm here with another deck profile. Today we're going to be taking a look at a deck I call Cocoon Bamboo Sword. Now, this is a deck that I built a couple months back, and I just thought it was the weirdest thing that I wanted to try out, and I kept testing it, and I was having a lot of fun playing around with it, so I decided to build it IRL. So it's basically a deck that works with a card called Cocoon of Ultra Evolution that allows you to tribute insects from either side of the field with equip cards, so I thought, well, why not run Bamboo Swords in it? And then I learned about this card called Ballpark or Giant Ballpark. So we're going to start off with cards that work with that, which is normal monsters. So first off, we got Metal Armored Bug. Now, the reason I run this over a card such as Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, because they're basically both just beat sticks, and I'm going to special summon them the same way. Metal Armored Bug can be special summoned off of Giant Ballpark with its secondary effect. And also, I just have a lot of nostalgia for this card. When I was a kid, all my buddies, they had Dark Magician, Blue Eyes and Red Eyes and the Egyptian God cards. And this was my boss card. This was like my Blue Eyes. It was Metal Armored Bug. So I have a bit of a soft spot for it. So I feel like I kind of have to run it. So up next, we have two Neo Bugs. So this is the card we're basically going to dump to grave with Ballpark's effect. And then we basically get two of these on the field. And then up next, a slightly stronger version of that, we have Insect Knight. We obviously run three of these because it is the strongest level 4 lower insect monster until Shiny Black Ranger C comes to the TCG, in which case this will go down to 0 and then Insect Knight will go down to 2. So that's really all we have for normal monsters, because at that point it's going to start getting a little bricky. So we're going to move on to effect monsters. Starting off, we got a really weird one. It is Parasite Paranoid. So this is basically kind of a retrain on Parasite Parasite, whereas instead of interacting with your opponent's deck, it interacts with your opponent's monsters. So you basically get to quick effect, equip this as an equip card to your opponent's monster, and it becomes an insect, and it can no longer target insects with attacks or effects. And if this leaves the field, special summon an insect, a level 7 or higher insect from your hand, ignore its summoning conditions. So basically, I'm going to just toss this on my opponent's monster anytime I want to tribute it, or I'll even just put it on my own monster to get 2 special summons using Cocoon. And then up next, a really interesting card that's actually relatively new. Do I only run 2 of these? Hang on a minute. I think I only run 2 of these. I don't even know my my own deck. All right then. So up next we have 2 Goki Poles. Goki Pole is a phenomenal card because its graveyard effect is super easy to activate because it just says when sent to graveyard, you get to add a level 4 insect monster to your hand, but if it's a normal monster, you get to special summon it and non-targeting destroy a monster on the field with higher attack than it. So usually I'll target Neo Bug because it has the lower attack and then be able to pop any monster on the field, regardless of targeting or not. And then up next, we got 3 Mothmans. This is the only danger card I run in this deck, mainly because it's a level 4 insect, so it can be used with Ballpark or Goki Pole. And I mean, obviously, it's just a danger monster. I get to search, and then I'm actually A-okay. Like, I have so much recycling I could do in this deck. I'm actually okay with this getting hit, being sent to grave, and then being able to draw and discard, because sometimes I'll use either one of the Bamboo Swords or Goki Pole with its discard effect to get get Goki Pole's effect going. And then to get to a little bit stronger monsters, we have 2 kaiju. We got 2 Kumungus. It's a kaiju. It's pretty self-explanatory. You get to, especially if I first equip my opponent's monster with Paranoid, I get to then tribute it, then get a special summon, or I can tribute their monster and then put Paranoid on Kumungus, then tribute Kumungus, and I get the 2 special summons. And then, this is basically my boss monster, even though it's actually not my strongest monster in this deck. It's Metamorphosis Insect Queen. This is probably one of the greatest retrains I've ever seen in my life, because original Insect Queen is garbage. So, its one downside is that it has to be special summoned. It doesn't matter what effect it is. It just says must be special summoned with a card effect. And then it can basically attack all monsters your opponent controls, but you have to keep tributing monsters to continue that effect, and it can technically infinitely loop because there's no limitations of how many times you can do that. But you can at least still get its one attack off without tributing. And then as long as this and another insect is on the field, your opponent cannot target or destroy insects with card effects, which is phenomenal. And then no matter what, during the end phase, during both players' end phases, you get to spit out a token. So this is probably one of the best cards for this deck because it can help fill up your field with tokens. And then we got two more kaijus here, just because it's another insect beat stick as a kaiju. Funny enough, because almost my entire deck is Earth, I actually sometimes give my opponent Godarla and give myself Comungus, so I can actually then go into Mrs. Radiant, and then Comungus actually becomes stronger than Godarla because Godarla loses its attack. And then a one-off, just for fun, is Earthbound Immortal Uwu, what's this? Because, I mean, hey, it's an insect that can be special summoned, and then I'll most likely have Ballpark on my field, so it has its field spell, attack directly, steal my opponent's monsters. I think it's just a really funny one-off to run, because nobody ever expects a single Earthbound Immortal to show up. And so that is it for our monsters here, and then we're going to move on to our lengthy amount of spells because of the amount of bamboo swords needed for this deck to exist. So starting off, it's just the basic broken bamboo sword. I mean, it's pretty easy to explain. This is pretty much your go-to, especially off of a search off of this next card. A set of Cursed Bamboo Sword. I mean, this card is phenomenal because it's when it's sent to grave, you get to add a Bamboo Sword from deck to hand, and then sometimes, like, even if I draw into stuff, you can bounce. I don't use its other effect that much, but it's bounce another Bamboo Sword back to hand, and then that monster can attack directly. That effect usually doesn't happen that often, but if I end up starting with this, equipped to a monster, I'll then equip Cursed to that monster, bounce this back to hand, so I can have Broken in my hand, then either tribute or link away the monster that's equipped with Cursed, and then off of Cursed, I will search one of my 3 golden bamboo swords. So it's basically, I mean, I never even say golden bamboo sword. I literally activate it and I say Pot of Greed, which I don't know why I say that. I don't even know what Pot of Greed does. But because I have Broken in my hand, I can then Pot of Greed. So it can sometimes get into an interesting combo. And then it's just a 2-of that'll usually get sided out. I have 2 Burning Bamboos. I can OTK decently well with this deck, but just in case I can't, just to mess with my opponent a little bit, I can usually, once Burning gets on the field, I can skip their main phase pretty often. And so we're done with Bamboos now. We can move on to probably my favorite card in this entire deck, Cocoon of Ultra Evolution. Now, there's so many things awesome with this card. First of all, it's a quick play, so you can do so with Paranoid. You can have this set, and then quick effect equip Paranoid from your hand to an opponent's monster, and then tribute it away because it's an insect. Because its effect says it tributes an insect from either side of the field with an equip card, which is as generic as this card can be, which is phenomenal. And then it's special, an insect from your deck ignores summoning conditions, and then during that same turn, you can banish this from your grave because this basically can't get recycled. So once it's in grave, it's in grave. So you banish it, and then you target a insect in your graveyard, shuffle it back, and draw one. So it's a good way to recycle a little bit. And then we got our 1 terraforming to then go into our field spell, Giant Ballpark. This card is beyond fun to use. Nobody, I just used this at locals the other day, and nobody had any clue what this thing did, and they read it, and they watched me use its effect, and they thought it was crazy. Basically, during the damage calculation, if either player takes battle damage, I can just I can just negate the damage. The attack still goes through, so the monster would get destroyed, or if in defense position, I guess it really wouldn't. But then you can negate the damage by sending a level 4 or lower insect from deck to grave. But if it's a normal monster, special summon up to 3 copies of it from hand, deck, or graveyard. And I mean, that's phenomenal. Being able to say, oh, you know what, let's say I'm going to, poke you for like 100 damage. You're fine. You don't need to take that. But here's 3 1900 attack beat sticks on the field that you can easily Xyz linked into. And basically, it's almost a free OTK too. So that is going to be it for our spells. We actually don't run any traps in this deck. We do have 1 trap in our side, which we will get to in a little bit, but we're going to be moving on to our extra deck, which our extra deck really doesn't have that much in it. It's not really our win condition. It's more of just help to help continue plays. So first off, because the insect monster token that Metamorphosis summons is a level 1, we can run Link Karibo. So it's basically just I can't really play into anything else. Here's a little bit of protection. And then also, during the end phase, I can get a token, and then I can chain to that token, and then get Link Karibo back. And then I pulled this at a locals because they were giving away old OTS packs. This is OTS, OTS 7. So I got an ultimate rare from that. I got the Link Spider. So I mean, I don't think it's that good because of where its arrow is. It kind of locks me out of plays, but so I mean, I still run it just to, I mean, hey, it's a spider, it's an insect. I mean, well, not an insect, but it's an insect, and it works with normal monsters. So I think it's an interesting thing to run. And then probably the most used card in the extra deck is Insector Pico. Now Pico is great because its first effect I don't use that often, which is when it's link summoned, discard a card, then target another insect you control, equip a monster straight from deck to it. So usually I will target it with either Paranoid or Gokipole, because if it's equipped with Gokipole, when Gokipole gets sent to grave, I get a free summon and a free pop. And then its other effect is I get to pretty much do what Cocoon does, but it's target 3 insects in grave, shuffle them back, and draw one. So it's a super easy way to recycle and basically loop ballpark as much as you want. And then up next we got 2 Mrs. Radiance. I used to run 3, but I almost only use like 1, maybe 1 per duel. So I just run 2 of them. It's a great, because everything except Pico, Godarla, and Mothman are Earth. Well, and Uru are all Earth. So this basically gives almost everybody an attack boost, and then I get to re-add a Earth monster. So my usual target for that when this gets destroyed is Paranoid, because then I get to start distributing my opponent's monsters again. And then moving on to XCs, we got just a couple of one-offs. These are kind of like just staple level 4 XCs, since I'll most likely get a free one on the field with Ballpark. We got a single Baguska. Baguska is just a great way just to stop your opponent from pretty much doing anything for a few turns. And then the one, the only Cowboy for game. I mean, it's just a burn card. That's all this thing is ever going to be used for. And then an Abyss Dweller to lock your opponent out of graveyard effects. So this one will only get used depending on what my opponent plays. So if they're playing, something like BA, I mean, I'm just going to completely lock them out of playing the game. And then we got 2 cards that basically go together. We got Utopia and you got Utopia Lightning. This is basically just like, oh, my opponent's got a big monster that I'm just not going to get over. I might as well just, trash it. And then our last one that hasn't gotten any use yet, mainly because I just bought it, I have a single Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. That's because Metamorphosis Insect Queen is a level 7. So, I mean, hey, if I want to, almost OTK my opponent, then during and then during main phase 2, go into this thing and then pretty much lock them out of using effects, or they get to kill themselves. It's an interesting card to run. I haven't used it yet just because of how new this card is for me. And I know that's not a complete extra deck. There's a couple. I think I'm at 12. So there's a couple of things I can easily add, but I just haven't gotten to figuring out what I could easily add to this deck. There's probably a couple more rank 4s that I could easily put in this thing, but there was just nothing that I really thought would be that beneficial for this deck. Now the one thing is that I wish that Great Fly was the Earth one, because that would be phenomenal for this deck, because it's another insect. But sadly, it's not the case. So our side deck is pathetically short. It's got, I don't side that often, so you'll have to let me know in the comments below what I should really learn. How I should learn to side this deck. So up first, we just got a standard MST just to get rid of back row if they're starting to pun intended, bug me. Up next, we got Worm Bait. I think this is better than Multiplication of Ants, because Multiplication of Ants gives you tokens too, but you have to tribute a monster, where this one is, if you control a insect, you get to get 2 tokens, but you can't summon level 3 or 4 monsters that turn. So you can argue between the two, like which one is better and which one's worse, but for the time being, I've sided in this one. And then usually, if I can't get over a monster, I'll side out Metal Armored Bug for Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. And I know it's the common. I'm currently in the process of possibly buying that Prismatic Secret, like the Game Boy Advance promo one. But this thing really shouldn't even be an effect monster. Its effect is its summoning restriction. It doesn't have any effect except the summoning restriction, so it's just a beat stick. So that could possibly see play if I can't get over an opponent's monster. And then we have a single Foolish Burial. I would pretty much only side this if I were to just start dumping things such as I would use this and then dump YGOPro into Grave to get a pop and a free summon. And then our final card is Rivalry, since we run almost exclusively insects just to lock my opponent out. It's really funny too, because I think if the rulings are correct, I can still use Paranoid to make my opponent's monster an insect and immediately boot it off the field because it's violating the rules of Rivalry. So, if not, I can just easily just right before I activate this, activate Paranoid, make it an insect, then use Rivalry. They're most likely not going to choose insect, so that means Paranoid leaves the field and I get a free summon. So that will be it for this insect deck. Please let me know how to make this deck better. I had a blast building this deck. I actually built it on my flight home from spring break when I had no Wi-Fi, but YGOPro could still work. So I was able to look up cards and build this, and I had a blast building it and testing it with people both online and IRL. So please let me know how I could build this deck a little bit better, and I will see you guys next time.